to start spring practice and almost have a full roster. Seems like it's deeper than it's ever been in the spring.
Yeah, I was really, really happy. Kind of, have you been doing this long enough? You have a feeling going from January and February and watching the team work out, watching the team form really and come together. 34 newcomers showed up this semester, and we'll have probably about 10 or 15 more show up in May. So quite a few newcomers, and getting them acclimated to our way of doing things. And my hat's off to Joey Garasio and our strength staff, and Addie and our nutrition staff did a wonderful job in January and February. It's a unique time. Our coaches are all out on the road recruiting, and yet you've got 34 new faces showing up to your team and getting ready to work. So going back to kind of knowing, having seen a lot of teams throughout the month of January and February, kind of knew today was coming, and it was a really good day. If for nothing but because we had a bunch of guys out there with smiles on their face, running around, really, really trying to please their teammates, trying to please their coaches, and we can correct all the mistakes that were made, but we had a lot of energy, a lot of speed, a lot of guys really, selling out and straining out there at practice, and that's the way we want it. We're out there for about 2 hours and 15 minutes tops, and we're going to get our work in, and we go fast, we go intense, and then after 2 hours and 15 minutes, we all take a deep breath, go get in the cold tub and go eat lunch together, and I felt like the new guys really acclimated well.
Something that maybe helped with that too is the continuity of the staff and having the full staff back where day one isn't learning on their part.
Yeah, it's a testament to the guys we do have on staff, and Brian White and FAU in general, to be at a place just going into the American Conference and a program, and to keep both coordinators and 9 out of your 10 full-time assistants, kept our head strength coach, chief of staff, and really had a minimal amount of turnover, which should add, having heard stories about the previous years here, hopefully should add quite a bit of stability, and trust. I think that's, in today's day and age, more than any time in my career at least, this is, you've got to earn their trust, and you got to earn it quickly, and to have that same face in your position meeting room year after year, semester after semester is valuable and important.
How much more comfortable do you feel now than a year ago?
Me personally, I feel like a new person. I felt like, unfortunately for the players, I probably was getting my sea legs a little bit. Staff that I hadn't worked with a whole lot of these guys before, and so 2 years from not being a head coach, and so my family's all moved in. We don't have movers in our house anymore, and I feel really, really settled, and so I appreciate you asking, but it definitely adds to the positive vibe, I guess, that maybe I feel personally, even to knowing that everything kind of in my life is settled down a little bit too.
With so many new wide receivers and an important new quarterback, is patience kind of important until they kind of all get on the same page?
Yeah, yes and no. I don't think any good coach is patient by nature, but I think, again, having done this long enough, you understand the things that take time and the things that shouldn't at this point in our development, and that is one. You're right, and so we're going to do everything we can to accelerate that process for sure. But I think, with the way that the off season is governed now compared to 5-10 years ago, we get so much more football in the off season now too, that helps significantly too.
coach, last year didn't have the best results as he would have wanted. Though there were plenty of positives to draw from it. When you look back on last year with a retrospective, what are the biggest lessons you learned from that, and what will you do to apply them to everybody on the team to make sure those mistakes don't happen again?
Yeah, I think probably the biggest lesson for two reasons. One is we got to finish. We got to learn how to fight, and that's been kind of our theme. Not kind of. It's been our theme since we got back on January 8th. Just fight. We were. I'm gonna get a little philosophical on you, but we were 1-5. Or last year's team was 1-5 in one-score games, and that was something we hadn't been a part of as a staff before, and after a lot of kind of figuring out why, and I think the answer is you need two things to win. You need talent and you need culture. And we had the requisite talent to be in those ones, to have 6 one-score games, including against a Big Ten opponent. You got to have good enough talent just to be there in the fourth quarter, right? But we didn't have dominant enough talent to put us over the edge. And you got to have a good enough culture to get you to that moment, to be in a one-score game in the fourth quarter. But our culture, on me and our staff, wasn't quite where it needed to be to carry the deficiency in talent. And so we feel like we've raised the level of talent. In doing so, just by sheer human beings, we've increased the culture, and we've done more as a staff to facilitate that as well. So I think that's probably the biggest thing, is just the upgrade in talent and upgrade in culture. And we're not talking leaps and bounds. I mean, 6 one-score games out of 12, you turn 1-5 into 5-1 or 3-2 even, and you're going to a bowl game and you got a winning record. And so we got to learn how to fight. And I think the addition of the talent and addition of really good young men that believe in the way we do things, as well as myself and our staff tweaking things here and there to help facilitate culture development, I think has led to that, optimistic look.
Well, I mentioned new quarterback, Cam. You're going to make him earn it. He didn't step out there with the ones right away, but what do you feel he brings to the program?
Yeah, and we feel like Tyriq has earned that as well. He's a guy that really came on towards the end of last year, continued to get better. And a lot of guys don't improve during fall. You kind of are where you are, and development happens a lot of time in the off season. But Tyriq stayed true to his development kind of plan and progress, and came on, and so it should be a good fight this spring. But in Cam, you've got a ton of experience. Obviously, this guy started a bunch of games in a really good conference. And athleticism too. Both those guys back there are athletic, and so the offense really, in terms of Coach Fry, the offense doesn't really have to change a whole lot in terms of what he calls. Not that the offense really changes with the quarterback. Maybe what you emphasize does, and so I think having Cam here, one has made Tyriq accelerate his progress, but you can tell there's a reason that he started as many games as he did for Marshall, and we're excited to keep watching him grow in the offense.
Obviously got a lot of new guys coming into the team throughout the spring. How well have they acclimated to getting themselves adjusted to the team?
Really well, yeah. It's hard, I think it's more normal now than probably we like to admit. Mm-hmm. And so I think, but we were very intentional with the type of transfer that we recruited. I'm huge on production. We'll take a productive guy at maybe a smaller level that's produced for a number of years, maybe over a guy at a Power 5 school that's been sitting on the bench for 3 years, you know. And so our coaches did a really good job identifying the type of guys that would fit and fit well in our culture, and my hats are off to all of those guys. We haven't had any issues, and they've really kind of, knock on wood, acclimated pretty seamlessly.
In your experience, how is a good spring translated to a good fall? Is there always a correlation or not necessarily?
Whew. In today's football, I don't know, you know, because the team's bound to look, at least to us, significantly different in the fall. But you hope that you have your core nucleus of guys that are going to go compete. And I think that's a huge part. If you're on this team right now, chances are you're not going to have much of an opportunity come fall camp to earn more playing time. Wherever you're at leading spring ball, it's going to be, you know, past maybe the first week to 10 days of training camp, then we got to move on to getting ready to win a game and you know, win a championship and prepare for a season. And so, and then you factor in now we've got more new guys than ever showing up in May that we've got to get a look at. This spring, if you're going through this spring practice, it is really, really important for you because I don't know how many more opportunities are going to be available to improve your lot, you know, throughout the course of training camp.
Coach, looking at the tight ends group, you obviously had a lot of praise for Zeke Moore, who shined throughout his freshman campaign. What are you looking from him to building off of last year to build on his sophomore campaign, and of course the rest of the other tight ends? What are you looking for the rest of the group to build on?
Yeah, with Zeke, it was, you know, it was funny to watch him because he plays such a physical position and did it at a very high level as a true freshman. But there were times when you could tell he was just like, I'm gonna run out here and just hit whatever I can hit as hard as I can hit it, you know. And there wasn't a whole lot of technique. You could tell the game was still really fast for him, but he was gonna go give it everything he had. And so I think the game has slowed down for him a little bit. I think the other guys in that room, Khalil, Wyatt, Elijah Brown has had a really good offseason. You know, those guys are coming along to allow us, one, to not have to play Zeke as much, but also two, you know, have some more 12 personnel packages, which was good to last year's team too. When, you know, you look at the efficiencies, we were last year's team was pretty good. The offense when we had two tight ends on the field.
When you look at offensive line, you know, both your tackles are looking to play pro ball. Both guards went to, I guess it's now Power 4 conferences. How important is it to, I would guess it's super important to figure out the best five and the best combination in spring.
Yeah, you're right there. Do we go out and look for certain guard types and tackle types? Yeah, guards are usually a little thicker, maybe an inch or two shorter for leverage underneath some of those big D tackles, and your tackles are usually longer. But long story short, we got to put the best five out there, and it'll be, unfortunately, a bit of musical chairs until we do find those five, which is good. And you know, it's good because we get to see so many guys in meaningful action, but you know, that is such a position of continuity and togetherness that you'd like to see some guys solidify themselves quickly, but having Federico at center, kind of anchoring that group, hopefully calms the waters a little bit until, you know, we settle on the four guys around him.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.
Everything moving a little slower than it did in the fall?
100%. It's more fun. I'm like less nervous in a bad way and nervous in a good way. Just excited more than like nervous, which is fun.
And you seem to have a decent sized position group today as opposed to last year when I think sometimes you're down to 3 guys.
For sure. It was nice because everyone had to rotate. You can learn from other guys. you can like have 100% reps instead of, you know, having a 5-play rack where, you know, you're kind of tailing off towards the end. So that's nice.
I was kind of sitting there in the off season going, you know, who's back on offense? Okay, there's Zeke and there's Fed, and after that, I was kind of hard pressed to name some. There's a lot of new faces on your side of the ball. So, what does spring practice mean for the offense as a group, just to kind of get on the same page?
Yeah, it's definitely like finding our guys and like figuring out who can play, and then also like for me, just earning my job back. Like we have a lot of good guys in our room, so you know I can't just sit there and go through the motions. Like it's proving to coaches that you know I can play and you know be that guy, but then also building trust with other guys who you know there's a lot of communication pre-snap, so like stuff like that, whether tackles, quarterbacks, snap counts, all the little stuff that goes into a play.
Zeke, you obviously had a lot of moments throughout your freshman campaign, making the most catches from the tight ends group and a couple of touchdowns. What are you looking to improve the most in your game for throughout this spring camp?
Definitely just my receiving ability. Something that I started to do more at the end of the year last year. So just growing confidence in that, and also just being that guy who can be one-on-one with defensive ends in the run game, and then also like pass protection, stuff like that. Just continuing to build my role.
With so many new guys, as I said, is it important that they understand? You know, one of the things Coach mentioned was tempo of practice, but also the work you've got to put in when you're not on the field on your own.
100%. Like I've noticed a big improvement in the guys that the coaches brought in. They love to work outside of you know our scheduled hours, which is a great sign. I'm getting a lot closer to a lot of the new guys because of that stuff. You know, going to the field on the weekends, stuff like that. So it's definitely something nice to see.
What's the biggest difference you see from this overall unit compared to the prior season? What's the biggest improvement you see from last year?
I think attention to details. I think the guys this year do the little things right so far. I mean, obviously, like, you know, they want to practice, but there seems to be a lot of intensity. Even when guys are nervous, going 100%, which, like, that's really all you need at this point. So that's really nice to see.
We often talk about how hard the off-season is. What's one good or fun thing that you enjoy doing in the off-season?
I love to lift, so it's nice to be able to lift and not worry about like on-field stuff where you can like really push yourself, and if you're sore the next day, it's fine. So that's always fun for me.
Anybody else?
Yeah. Good. Thanks, Zeke.
Thank you.
Thank you, Zeke.
I think our third spring for you.
Second.
So big difference or
Huge
just a little
difference.
slower?
Huge difference. Huge difference. I like the tempo. I like the flow. I like the way the guys are coming together. You know, the guys who are making mistakes, they're getting with other guys that's on the team rather than get with the coaches to correct their mistakes. I like the attitude of everybody. You know, we want to get better. We want to do the right things, and we want to be successful on both sides of the ball. And just the energy overall from the offense and defense is just everybody seems more hungry than last year.
You got the opportunity to lead at the snap during the season finale against Rice last year. Since then, how have you been taking advantage of that opportunity for growth to continue being a potential starting quarterback under Coach Herman?
Just stacking days. You know, I played quarterback before. I took snaps many times before, so it's nothing really new. Just a different stage. So just stacking my days. Me and Coach Herman talk a lot. Me and Coach Fry speak a lot. You know, I always ask them, what can I do to be better? What can I do to get better as a person, as a football player? You know, and they always lead me in the right direction. So just every day, I just take it with a grain of salt and just try to stack days on top of days.
What's the biggest improvement that you are looking to make in your game throughout the spring?
My mental improvement, seeing the defense better, the game speed slowing down for me. I'm starting to see a lot of things better. I'm starting to know a lot more things that I didn't know in the previous season or in my career in general. So I would say my mental.
I see how hard you guys work in the off season, and that work is important. And some people may look at spring practice as though it's just practice. But after all that work you put in the off season, is it good to just get on the field and be playing football with a chance to compete?
Yeah, man, it was fun today, man. I had a lot of fun through the ups and the downs. It was a lot of fun. In the off season, you know, the offseason was fun too, and it's most important too because that's where the foundation starts at. That's where everything starts in the offseason. You know, the goals that we set for ourselves individually and collectively. So yeah, the offseason was most important. But yeah, it was extremely fun today to be back out there on the field with the balls flying around and just being with the guys, having the energy, everything. It was just fun.
The wide receiver room looks radically different than it did last year. Is it going to take a little bit for all of you to kind of understand each other and your tendencies, your nuances, and that kind of thing?
When they first got here, I would say yeah, but through the off season, we spent a lot of time on the field just running routes. Pretty much every off day, every weekend, we were out there throwing, so we kind of gelled pretty fast. Kind of grew a bond with each other. You know, everyone is open to a conversation with each other. Everyone is open to being corrected and criticized to be better. So I feel like we're all good.
What excites you the most about that group?
Their willingness to learn. You know, they have that mindset of always learning something new. And you know, if they might run the route correctly, but they might want to run it better. You know, if that makes sense. So their willingness to learn. You know, they just want to be better as a unit. They want to be better individually. So that would be it for me.
In spring, when there's 4 or 5 of you quarterbacks out there at once, is it frustrating knowing you have one of every 5 rep, or you know that's just sort of the process?
That's the process. Coaches gotta do evaluations. That's what everybody It's just different. It stands out more as a quarterback because it's only one quarterback on the field. That type of thing happens from every position: receivers, running backs, even O-linemen, D-linemen, secondary, things like that. But frustrating? Nah. That's just the process. I just got to take advantage of my opportunities every time I step out there to keep earning more opportunities.
Yes? All right,
Okay.
thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, Tyriq.